first time I heard like a big artist play something of mine was at ADE, I think 2022. I was having dinner with a couple of artists that we just signed to Circa Groove, and they said that they were going to Brett. And I wasn't planning on going, but I tagged along with them, and it was Enzo playing all night long. And I was on the dance floor, and at like 3 a.m, I heard this tune come in, and I was like, I know this tune. I was like, really trying to think of the ID, and I was like, what is this tune? And then I was like, oh shit, it's mine. So I was like, oh, that's wicked. It's like the first time I've ever heard it, and it got a really cool reaction, and it was a great moment. Obviously, the first time you hear one of your own tunes plays in a venue is a very special moment. At that point, I'd had a few drinks, so I was feeling more confident. So I went up to the booth, and that's sort of how I met some of the Fuse team. And one of the guys introduced me to Enzo, and I had a quick chat with him, and he said, keep sending me stuff, and said that he really liked it. So it sort of stemmed from there, and that's how my relationship with him sort of, first came about.
And how did you manage at that moment to get those tracks to him?
This is a good question, because I actually don't know, because I didn't send them to him. So I think that EP has never actually been released. So I think I'd sent it to someone else, maybe someone that works with him, and they just passed them along to Enzo.
Feels you had your community, you built your community before, and those connections allowed your music to flow through a path that you could not imagine it was going to flow through.
Exactly. Yeah.
How did you build your community?
I think definitely through going out. You make a lot of close friends on the dance floor. Some of my closest friends now I've met at like Dimensions and festivals like that. One of my very good friends, June, I met when I played a gig in Shoreditch, and he just came up to me at the end, and off the back of that, he's become a very good friend. And also just sending your music out to other DJs and artists, and through social media, you find that you sort of connect with people. Then you meet them in person at a venue, and you just build relationships sort of in person, but they kind of somehow stem from like the online community, and also just via other producers, sending your tunes to other people making music and saying like, this is what I'm working on, what are you working on, sending ideas back and forth.
So for you, it's like there's a huge importance of community, probably not being alone in the journey, right? And
yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, I when I'm in the studio, I'm a bit more, I like being a bit more independent. Not that I don't like working with other people in the studio, maybe because this room's quite small, but I enjoy my solo time in the studio. I'd say I'm quite introverted when it comes to being in the studio. Whereas when we're out and we're partying, quite the opposite.
And how many hours per week? Like, do you have a structure? How many hours you dedicate?
That's a good question. I try. I recently got the puppy, so at the moment I've been slowing down a bit. But I have this like 15 minutes a day rule, which a mastering engineer that I used to work with told me about years and years ago, and it's always stuck with me. And basically the concept is you have to do 15 minutes of your craft every single day, no matter what. Even if you're not feeling creative or you're not inspired, if you go in and do that 15 minutes, you've ticked it off for the day, you're done. And 9 times out of 10, 15 minutes turns into half an hour turns into an hour.
Yeah.
It's a really good like rule of thumb to follow, because even if you're just really not wanting to do something, you can get in for 15 minutes, make a drum loop, and even if you cut off there, the next day when you get in, you'll take that drum loop and build it into something else, and that might turn into a 6-hour session. And it's always stuck with me. I try to do that. Obviously, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
Life gets in the way, but I try to stick with that. I am a big morning person. I can't make music at night. When I'm tired, these people that come back from the club and get in the studio straight away and start writing, I have no idea how they do that. For me, I like sitting in here, coffee, fresh. When I've got a clear head, I'm way better at making music. Or just like even just hopping in the afternoon just for 15 minutes to do a little something. So
you mentioned before about Circa Groups.
Yeah. So Circa Group is my label that I set up with my best friend Will back in 2020. We're 5 years old now. Basically, Will and I were living together in Leytonstone And we were good friends back in college, and he moved down to London, and we sort of became like really close again. And we were always into a very similar style of music, but we each had like our own twist on it, which is a perfect match. And I wanted an outlet to basically put out my own stuff at the time. And there was also so much good music that I was listening to, which just like wasn't getting discovered, or I was getting sent. And we basically chatted about it for a while, and then we were just like, why don't we just set it up together and get it running as a label? So I think we had our first release back in 2020. And then since then we're on our 15th release. I've done 2 EPs on the label myself. And it's been a great way of connecting with, like you said before about community. It's a really good way through the label to connect with other artists. And then since then, we've gone on to doing events. So we basically started doing them at the Club That Fits in Hackney Central about, I think, 3 years ago. And now we've done stuff in Valencia. We've done stuff at Fabric.
How did you manage to run your night on Circa Groups in Fabric? How was that connection?
So it came about through a very good friend of mine who basically put us in touch with the booker for Fabric. And it just came about through that, and we'd wanted to do something there for ages. And then they asked about, what we had done previously, where we'd thrown parties, the sort of artists that we were booking. So we told them about what we'd been doing, and they loved it. And then they gave us the opportunity to take over Room 3 on the same night that Laurent Garnier was playing in Room 2. So that was obviously pretty special moment. And it also coincided with me living in London for exactly 10 years. So it was a bit of a full circle moment, because Fabric was one of the first clubs that we started going to when we moved here.
How did it feel to be playing in Room 3?
You can't really put it into words. Playing on that system is incredible. Also, just the booth and just playing records in there is an extremely like rewarding experience. There's no issues. You've got the sound technicians there. If there's issues with the needles or anything, it's such a seamless experience. It was a bit of a pinch me moment playing in there. And also having all of our friends all around the booth, it was just incredible. In fact, the room actually opened an hour later than the club. So the doors for the club opened at 11. Our room didn't start till 12. And when they opened the top of the stairs and let everyone in, we just saw like a sea of people come in, and it was packed within like 5 minutes. Yeah, and it sort of threw us off a bit, because we were obviously planning on playing to an empty room, and it's slowly building up. So we packed a lot of records that were like a lot deeper, and not ambient, but to warm up the night. And then we were like, we need to change this up quite quickly, because we've already got a crowd that's wanting to get fully stuck in from the off. So
when you stack your records or you prepare your music, like you kind of have a bit of everything to be able to adapt to the night, right?
Yeah, 100%. I play a lot of digital stuff and records as well, and I organize them in a way that is basically just allows me to prepare for like any moment. So for example, with digital files, if I've got, let's say, Fabric Room 3, I'll have a playlist folder, and then within that I'll have A, B, C, and then tools. And these letters basically represent like the energy of the room. So for example, A would be peak time bombs that are like made for special moments, and then C would be stuff for like early doors, bit more stripped back. And it's not to say that when it's peak time you wouldn't go into that folder, but it's just more a way to organize in my head the energy of the room. And similar with my record bag, it'll be heavier peak time stuff at the back, at the front warm up stuff.
Okay.
In the middle, rollers, keep the night going.
How do you usually contact DJs or receive music for your releases?
So usually it's a case of us just hitting them up, artists that we're fans of. So a good example is our next release. I don't know when this video will be released, but the release might be out now. Is a guy from Italy called Frisky Business. And when Will and I set up the label back in 2020, he was the first artist that I actually hit up wanting demos from, because he'd had this release on I.O. Mulin's label Hoarder. I can't remember what the Grey Goo or something EP, and it was wicked, and we were playing it for ages. And it was one of those records that sort of almost inspired us to set up the label, because we were like, we want to release music like this. So we chatted to him in 2020, and I don't know what happened, but things got just delayed. And finally, after 5 years, we're doing a release with him, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, he's been great to work with. But yeah, it was a case of us hitting him up. Sometimes when it comes to remixes, just artists that we're fans of, we just hit them up, or maybe there's already an existing relationship there. So yeah, I think it varies. Some artists will get back to us and say, oh yeah, huge fans, huge fan of the label, love, what X release or whatever. Sometimes they will just, check out the previous release, or, examples that we send, say that they're into it, and then they're keen to work with us. And then sometimes it's, we had Joby do our last release, and the relationship with him started because we booked him to play at one of our parties. He was a really cool guy. We had a great time with him. And then, I have been sending him music back and forth. He's been sending me stuff. And then it eventually just comes down to me popping the question and say, are you up for doing a release with us? And then he sends me a playlist of 20 tracks, and then it stems from that. So it kind of varies for each release.
Going a bit into your music production journey, like, can you show us a bit what's your workflow?
Yeah.
Sorry, a song.
Yeah. So I'd say a standard thing for me to do when I'm starting completely from scratch is, so I use Logic, and I've basically got a template which I actually update every year. So for example, if I went on new template, I've got basically my templates, 2024 template, 2025. And basically what this is just like, I can show you, it's just like a starting point for a track. So I've already got the MIDI in for the kick, because I know it's going to be a 4 to the floor. And then it's essentially got clap, hats, bass, and these are just pre-programmed with synths that I'm using at the moment, or I use Battery by Native Instruments, and I've got basically all my drums loaded into a sampler already. So I usually start with the drums with this template, and then maybe for the bass line, I'll move on to a synth, record something. Maybe if I'm not inspired by it, I'll move back to a VST, and it varies, but I say the overall starting point is always the same. It's always the drums, it's always the kick, and it's always opening up one of these templates and starting from there. Every now and then, if I'm really uninspired, I will either put on a mix. I prefer putting on a mix rather than listening to like an individual song, because sometimes if you listen to an individual song for inspiration, you end up just like, without even thinking about it, subconsciously just basically trying to recreate the song. Whereas if you listen to an overall mix, you get a general vibe of like a sound, or maybe hear a sample in it. It's harder to almost like rip off. And then sometimes as well, if I'm just really struggling for inspiration, I'll just scrap the drums and then just come over to a synth. I'm using this Korg Minilog at the moment. It's the only polyphonic synth I've got. So it's actually got a chord trigger on it, so I can just write pads and things. And I'll just start with maybe a pad or something, record that into there, then build up the drums, and then eventually delete that pad, because I don't even, it's just a starting point to sort of trigger something else. Bass line is always after the drums, so I'll get a full drum loop, and then I'll do the bass line. Sometimes if I'm using a VST, like Massive or Serum or whatever, I'll basically record MIDI via the MIDI keyboards, create a melody, and then basically create a new channel that is linked to the Moog Sub 47, and basically re-record it through, I've got a USB cable that goes into there, and basically just re-record it through my mixing desk. And then I've got a compressor as well, which sometimes I run that through there, then into Logic. I would say I use MIDI on there more than just coming over to here and just writing, I would never just record in a bass line, just the audio. I always like to have MIDI so that I can edit things last minute.
All your hardware is connected to your materials, to the compressor?
Yeah, everything is routed, so each channel is a different one. And then channels 7 and 8, 9 and 10 I can have in stereo, because this is a stereo synth, obviously with bass line and drums and things, they're all in mono. But yeah, for the Minilog, I have these left and right, going into left and right.
Do you use your mic to record your own voice?
I do, yeah. A lot of tracks that I've done, if it's got vocal in, is my own. And I've got a few vocoders that I go to, like Waves and stuff, which are pretty cool.
What's your favorite vocoder?
I'd say it's called the mod something. Yeah, the Morphoder is really cool.
Okay.
So running my voice through that makes me sound cooler.
Futuristic. Do you do your own sounds in the VSTs, or do you usually go to sample packs?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, I will usually start with like a preset from maybe it's just a factory preset from a synth, and then tweak it myself, and then save that. But what I actually do quite a lot is actually just save channel strips. So what I'll do is once I've got a project and I've made something, let's say there was a song that I made recently and it had a really cool bass line in. So what I did is I went back into that project and just saved that channel strip. So I saved all the compression, EQ and distortion that I'd done on it. So next time I'm making a track, I can basically just reopen that whole thing. And obviously, I'm not going to write the same melody, but you can tweak it again. It's a nice way to just, speed up your workflow almost, so you're not starting from scratch. But I think over the years, obviously, the more you do, the more you save, and you end up just naturally creating like your own sort of sound set of preset packs and sample packs, etc.
It's important to have like a consistent sound.
Yeah, which is why, like I said, I use Battery from Native Instruments, which has all of my samples loaded in. So I tend to only pick from like a pool of 20 samples or whatever. Obviously, every now and then you're not finding much inspiration from them, so you'll use new ones. But I'd say in general, it keeps everything slightly more coherent.
Do you usually try to release everything that you produce, or you also try to keep some tracks unreleased?
No, 100% keep some stuff unreleased, which is why I started the dubplate series that I launched last year, which sort of stems off the back of me sending Voigtman a couple of just new tracks that I just made. I think I sent him them the morning of his set at Halton or the day before. It was very last minute. Went to see him play at Halton and he played both of them within like the first 20 minutes of his set. So I got some really cool videos of it. And then I decided like I didn't really want to release these on a label. They didn't fit on my label. So I was like, I just want to keep these for myself and for a handful of DJs like Voigtman and various other people just to play. So I pressed a couple of copies, just dub plates. I gave one away via a competition, and then the other I've kept for myself. And I'll only ever keep that for playing. I've got the clips up on SoundCloud. I get a lot of messages asking me to release them, put them on Bandcamp, but I never will, because I think it keeps, it's nice to have something in your locker that no one else can have. You can gatekeep it, but it's different gatekeeping a record that you've found because, you've made it yourself. So I feel like it, justifies it a bit more.
I think it's a very cool concept also, like, because you are able to create a connection with the artist by giving them something special that nobody else will have.
Yeah. Again, it's not just for me as well. And like you said, it's for the artists. And if you tell them that, I'm never going to release these, then they're going to be more inclined to play them more because, no one's got them. So, it makes the value of music and of a record slightly more special, which I think in this day and age is kind of lacking a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's so much music out there. I think for me as well, because I make slightly... I make some underground stuff, like my release on Transform, but then I make some, bigger room stuff, which is played a lot by artists like Chris Dussy and Enzo Siragusa.
Do you get input from the audience when making a track, in the sense of like you finish a track, then maybe you try to play it out somewhere, or you try someone to play it out, and then you feedback that information from the audience into like maybe analyzing?
100%. Yeah, if especially with mix downs and things. If you play something at Fabric and you hear it on that system, if it doesn't sound good, then you're going to want to make some tweaks.
Yes.
But even just at home, taking my music, putting it on my USB and then listening on my speakers in my living room, and just listening to how it sounds in there and putting it on headphones. I've got a few different sets of headphones on my in-ear plugs and just listening to it on different systems, and hearing it on different systems gives you different perspectives, not just on the mix down, but also on just the like vibe of the track.
This is your space in the house.
Yeah.
To test your
my special space.
Do you have any special record in your collection that you're...
Yeah. So the one that I've picked is this one. Now, the story behind this is pretty cool. So Will, my label partner, and I were playing in Valencia, it was like 2 years ago, at a club called La Fabrica. And the day of the gig, we went for a dig at this record shop called Ultrasound, which I still don't know who's made this record. I've had a look on Discogs, but I can't find it. But it says Ultrasound Music. And we had a dig, and I found this, and we played it the night of the gig, and the reaction was just insane. And it cost like, it was like €1.
Wow.
And I've only ever played it there and at Fabric, and it was the last tune I played when we did Fabric in December. So it's a very special record. It's one of those records that is made for a special moment. So I wouldn't play it all the time. I don't often pack it, but when the moment's right, it's an absolute bomb.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, it was crazy. Organised chaos. So obviously in my bag, I've just got back from Albania because I played at a Num. So that was the stuff I was playing there. Bottom left is just albums, just for listening. So not actually for DJing. So just, Donna Summer, Jamiroquai, whatever. Top left is junk that I need to sell. These 4 middle ones are stuff that I play. Bottom, this one's a little bit more minimal, a bit more electro-y, and these top 2 are a bit more tech housey. And then these 2 here are basically stuff that I've got in rotation, so stuff that I enjoy playing out a lot, and also my own stuff, which I'm trying to find, but that's a Circle Groove one. But yeah, it's organised chaos, but I know exactly where to find things. But yeah, I'd say for the stuff that I'm currently playing here, and in my bag, and whatever's out, usually stuff that is around here means that I'm packing it for a gig that I know that I've got coming up. So I'm doing like a down tempo set next Friday. So this is just all the stuff that I'd be playing then. And then I've got this sticker thing, which I do. If you can see the blue sticker on there. So I basically have these, and depending on what the gig is. So for example, this is down tempo stuff. So I know that the blue sticker means it's this side that I'm going to be playing. And this is really handy, especially when I bought a new record that I don't know inside out yet. Obviously, the more you learn a record, you know exactly what side you're going to play. But in terms of stuff that maybe you haven't listened to in a while, or, for example, this record, I wouldn't play the down tempo side ever. So hence why I've got the blue sticker on. And then if I've got a gig coming up and I want to use the other side, I'll just scratch it off and re-stick it on.
And what's your preferred way to buy records? Like, do you like going to a record store or online?
Yeah, definitely going to record stores is my preferred method, just because physically digging through, a collection is so much more rewarding. Discogs I hate. I just hate using it. I hate sitting down and staring at my screen just to, listen to rough clips. But it's also very convenient. So, if I'm feeling lazy and I want to just lie on the sofa and just dig, then obviously it's great for that. But yeah, record shops. I went to Palace a couple of weeks ago. We got a hell of a lot from there. There's also some private sellers dotted about who sell some really cool records. But yeah, also just the shops. All my friends is around the corner. I found some really good stuff in the £1 bin shelf there. I got that from all my friends, and it was like £3, and I play it all the time. It's wicked. So I'd say physically, I prefer, but I just don't get the time to dig as much as I'd like to.
Any advice for diggers?
Be patient, because digging is a long and slow and sometimes very disheartening experience, because you can spend a whole day and come out with nothing. And also just be trust your ears, because the amount of records I bought probably that are in here that I bought because maybe I was frustrated and I've been at a shop for 5 hours, haven't found anything, and I've heard something that maybe in the back of my mind I thought I could justify purchasing and playing somewhere, and then you never do. So don't do that, because you end up wasting a lot of money. But yeah, I think be patient with it. That would be my advice for diggers. And try and find something niche. Also, if you can, make edits of stuff. Just because you found a record that's got like a horrible drop from 1990 doesn't mean you can't. And it's got an amazing intro, amazing breakdown, amazing first chorus or whatever. Doesn't mean you can't sample it and loop it and then add your own touches, which I've done for quite a few of these. I've got quite a lot of edits just from things that I bought, but I've just hated the ending or needed to loop it or something like that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Of course, for you, it's been a journey. what learnings did you get in this journey that you think is worth passing on to new artists?
I would say definitely being patient with it, because it's a very long game. It's a very slow game, and if you're passionate about not just electronic music but everything that surrounds it, so clubbing, the technology side to it, digging, producing, if you love it that much, you will dedicate enough time to it and you'll be persistent with it. And I think persistence is key, because it doesn't happen overnight. You don't get your records played by big DJs just by writing tunes for 6 months. It takes years of being persistent with it. Don't think that you're gonna start making incredible music overnight. It doesn't happen like that. And you also, especially with music production, you can never stop learning. There's so much new technology coming out, ways to make music, different synths, etc. So you can never learn one thing and then be done. It just doesn't work like that. You're constantly evolving, so you have to evolve with the times. So yeah, I would say that. I would also say in this day and age, it does help to produce music. I'd say it opens a lot of doors. You can, obviously, there's thousands of amazing DJs out there that are just diggers, but in this day and age, I think it's a lot harder than it was, just because at the end of the day, there's more people collecting records than ever, and there is a finite number of 90s tech house records that people are going to dig. And especially in this day and age with like social media, Instagram pages that are just dedicated to showcasing rare finds, it's almost like easier than ever to discover things, which is obviously great, but it makes it harder for you to be a unique DJ, because people can find the stuff that you're digging. I feel like maybe a few years ago it was a lot harder. If you found a rare record, you could keep playing it for a couple of years and no one would find it. But nowadays it's getting harder and harder. So I think if you're producing as well and you can create stuff that you've made yourself, and you can gatekeep almost, it gives you a slight advantage as well. And it's a great way to connect with other artists as well. Not saying you can't make it if you're just a DJ, but it's definitely harder than ever. Mm-hmm. And it's so competitive. There's so many DJs out there. So, yeah.
And also what you spoke, like having your own label to help connect with other people, right? Like,
yeah, I think that's been really key for us. It's allowed us to meet so many people, and not even just from a music perspective, but just from a friendship perspective. There's so many wicked artists that we've worked with, who have become close friends, or even just people that have attended our parties that we've got to know over the years, and they become friends. So yeah, it's a very special thing. So yeah, I think the labels and events have definitely helped.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it.